Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 96. Tyler Doesn't Like It. Recorded on Friday, May 29th, 2020 from Zenatta Consulting. I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the news.
So we're going to start off with Zoho Creator. They have got several updates and announcements, 9 updates that are coming in June. And then a whole bunch of trainings also in June. It's kind of interesting. I haven't seen them really roll things out, but over the next 2 to 3 weeks, we've got just a bunch of features. The API 2.0s, mobile SDKs, federated sign-in, a lookup creation, UI revamp, some enhanced offline capabilities, support for deduplicating permission sets, satellite and street views and map reports. I don't know, a whole bunch of stuff, Tyler. Anything here get you excited?
Yeah, I think one of the big ones is, as they continue to increase offline capabilities, right? Creator is oftentimes used to extend functionality in the CRM, especially for people that may be out, working in the field or doing field services. So improving what you can do in an offline environment, that'll still upload to the cloud, once you're back online is definitely sweet, especially given how a lot of people use Creator.
Yeah, it's a long post. Kind of goes through each one of these things in detail, and it looks like there's going to have some nice training. They kind of have it for all the different time zones. So for the U.S., you've got it on June 2nd through 5th, as well as June 16th through 19th. Got it for business users and developers, 2 separate courses, and then they've got the same thing for EMEA on June 9th through 12th and 23rd through 26th. So check that out. The links are in the show notes. And Zoho Meeting got a real much-needed facelift. This is pretty interesting. Some real cleanup as far as the controls, where the controls are, the overall look and feel, a lot of basic stuff. You're highlighting who's talking because they've actually kind of gone after Zoom, or they're starting to copy Zoom with where you can have 7, 8, 9, 10 people on a screen now, and so they're kind of highlighting who's talking, so you can easily pick that out. Just some nice, I think, things that maybe are in most of the other video conferencing tools, but it's a pretty clean new look, and this is something they've really needed. I'm going to have to try Zoho Meeting again. I mean, the problem never has been that I cared about the UI was a little stale or a little old. As long as it functioned properly, that would be great. The biggest problem has been audio drops, video drops, all those kind of major issues that really just can mess up a recording or a meeting.
Yeah, and it's definitely nice here too, following, a couple weeks back, we talked about how they were building new server infrastructure for Zoho Meeting to kind of improve some of those quality issues. So if they're kind of tackling it on both ends, improving the bandwidth that they have available to run it, as well as now making some significant improvements to the UI. And all we need is that calendar integration, and we'll be hopping on board.
Yeah, and that might be there. I was playing a little bit. They've got nice Zoom integration now in the CRM. And so I started playing around with the overall meeting integration with Zoom inside the CRM, and they've actually improved upon that quite a bit on the calendar side. Actually, as I was booking a meeting, it said, "Hey, this is on top of another meeting you had." So there's some nice little features there, and that the ability to go in auto book is. I played around with that. It might be, it's a major deal to jump off of Calendly and go into that. Now, I'm not talking about Zoho Bookings. I'm talking about the native CRM booking tool. But it looks promising to say the least. So let's hope so. Alrighty, and hey, Zoho Analytics got a few new features. Tyler, you live and breathe Zoho Analytics. What do you think?
Yes, these are really nice. So kind of running down the list here, first you have a new feature called Dynamic Drill Down. So previously, basically a drill down is if you have a chart element, like some type of bar chart, you're able to drill down and kind of look at what data is composing each of the different bars or each of the different data points. But now you're able to use this dynamic drill down, which if you pull up the article that'll be in the show notes, they've got a link out that describes it in a little more detail. But basically what it's talking about is just drilling down by a certain parameter, right? So you could specifically say, I want to drill down by date or by type or by industry, right? Just so that when you actually are looking at the data underneath a certain chart, you're able to kind of sort or filter it how you'd like to see it. Little minor update here around the workspace and Explorer. This is basically the different folder structures that are inside of analytics. So you're basically able to now just like convert folders to parents and kind of move them out of the nesting that you may have set up. It's just a little quality of life improvement so you don't have to create a new folder and move all the reports there if you want to reorganize. And then last but not least, there's a pretty slick one down here at the bottom where they've improved how you can set up user filters. So user filters are basically where if I'm looking at a dashboard and maybe I have 3 charts, you can have a filter up at the top that you can actually use while you're looking at the report to filter down the data. So an example could be maybe I would have a timeline filter where I could filter a date that would apply to all of the different charts. So what this enhancement is basically if you have 2 filters next to each other, they'll affect each other, right? So if I had 3 different lead owners, right, that were available in the system, and I filtered the lead creation date to today, and let's say only 2 of them had created a lead today. Well, if I go over to that user filter to select the sales rep or the lead owner, I'll only see the 2 that created the lead today based on the previous filter. So it's a nice little quality of life improvement so that you're not seeing any options in the filters that aren't relevant based on the other filters that you have running.
Yeah, it's nice stuff. Continued improvement. It seems like every week we talk about this. So glad to see they keep bringing it on.
Absolutely.
All right, and then moving on, I'm really excited about this. We got some really nice updates to Zoho Forms. We'll start off with the first one. They updated the rules for records. So and they kind of gave it a whole new fresh URI. So when you're actually building out the forms, it's kind of nice when you set up these form rules and you want to update form records. It's been a little wonky, but the whole form rules section now has been completely revamped with a new UI, and it's very crystal clear. Now, I don't think before it could, I think, get a little confusing, but now it's just very easy to go ahead and build out your rules and get these laid out for when you're designing your forms. And I have to say, you can easily shift between your rules, so it's nice. It's just a nice improvement. I'm glad they're taking the time to kind of go bit by bit through some of the more obscure little features inside forms and kind of tweak them and improve upon them.
Yeah. And there's one little functional update here that kind of slid in along with the updates to the UI. And it's that you can actually trigger these different rules or workflows based on an update to a submission. So you can set up different rules inside of forms where you could actually allow people to come back to that form link. And if it identifies their IP address, for example, then they can actually update the responses that they previously put in on the form. So that can be nice if you have a client-facing form that they're going to use to provide contact information or certain preferences they may have. And so you can actually trigger a workflow or a rule now on the edits or update of something that was previously submitted. So that's kind of nice. So if you had a form that was, for example, a way for clients to give you their contact info, right? If they came back to that form and updated what they had and submitted it again, you could trigger a notification to yourself to let you know that one of your clients has updated that contact information. So it's kind of slick. And there's a lot of stuff that you can do. Of course, if you're integrating these to the CRM, you could set up those rules there. But if you're running things kind of independently in forms, that's definitely a huge improvement.
Yeah, and they've also done some super nice thing with dynamic labels in forms now. So the way this works is, for example, let's say you had a form and it had first name, last name. And so the first name on it was, I put my name in, Brett. And then the very next question when it comes up, it would say, hey, Brett, what's your email address? Or what's your phone number? You can get a little more kind of personalize these forms quite a bit. So it's nice. You see this all the time, I think, on more of the high-end form applications that are out there. But this is, super nice, very easy to build these, very easy to do. So it's a nice improvement.
Yep. Yeah, this kind of coupled with some of the UI improvements that we talked about a month ago, maybe a little longer, are starting to move this on par with some of the best form tools out there, right? Where you're able to create these beautiful templates and start customizing them. Yeah, they're definitely kicking it up a notch with forms kind of all across the board, which is great because at least for us, it's a tool that we use really, really commonly just because it's so robust and what you can integrate it with.
Yeah, and we're starting to see a blurring. I mean, there's so much you can do with it now. We're getting this blur between forms and surveys in a little bit with
Hmm.
some of the features. And they both have different use cases, but at the same time, I think they could almost be punched into one. But who
Yeah, the only
knows?
thing separating them nowadays is the CRM integration, that the surveys can create the related list and kind of send out dynamically through the CRM. And you can do dynamic sends of forms as well, of course, if you drop links and email templates, but being able to store that a form was sent or responded to in a related list is something that's exclusive to surveys.
And then in mobile news, normally, this week we cover this. Some weeks we have it, some weeks we don't. It really depends if there's really been something big that happened with any mobile apps. But I thought this one was kind of nice. You can now do image annotation in Zoho Projects mobile app. And this is both for Android and iOS. So if you have an image, you basically can go in, take a snapshot of something, completely annotate that snapshot, and then upload it to the project. And people can view it and they'll know exactly what you're talking about. It's a simple little tweak, but I think oftentimes in projects, if you're working on something, I think this could be a huge time saver.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely see if you had like a design for something or a blueprint, being able to jot down some quick notes on there and, attach it back to a certain task would be really nice to have. I do love in this image too, it looks like whoever wrote or annotated the image here struggles as much as I do to write out things on a touch screen. Looks a little a little rough here. There, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see a little animation here of them annotating a picture of a field of rice, and they write rice across the top of the image. And
Yes.
the font looks a lot like my fonts when I annotate things.
Yeah, and the it's an animated GIF that's running at lightning speed and about to give me an epileptic seizure, I think, as it continues. But all right, what do we got for the implementation of the week?
Yes, this is kind of an interesting one. So I know a long time back we did an implementation around Zoho Projects and Zoho Analytics. And so that was specifically around tracking certain types of costs. But we kind of circled back around with the same client. And now we wanted to start tracking those costs against specific budgets, right? And so basically what we're doing is leveraging the very robust connector between projects and analytics. It's definitely one of the strongest connectors, right? It's on par with, the connection from the CRM or from books where you really get every single item all organized in a really logical way, written over to analytics so that you're able to report on it properly. And basically what we had previously is we had a couple custom fields in the tasks, right, to track things like a material cost for a certain task or a labor cost for a certain task. What we did here is we basically created custom fields at the project level, right? So not specific to any tasks, but specific to a project that tracks specific types of budget, right? So projects has some built-in budget tracking, but it's a little bit fixed in how it works, right? So you can either track based on your time entries, either in hours or in cost, right? But it doesn't really give you a way to break down that budget into specific budget types. Right. So for the example here, we basically walked through and created a materials budget as well as a labor budget. And then in each of their tasks, they can track the labor cost and the material cost. And we can pull all of that data into Zoho Analytics and basically show for each project the budget consumption, how much of the budget we have left, how much of the materials budget is used on task type A versus task type B. Right. So you can really slice and dice your budget consumption. Which is huge for when you're managing any type of project, right? You always want to make sure you're on top of that budget. And this gives you a really slick way to do that. And you're able to report on this, in different chart images, pivot tables, all different types of reports that you can create in analytics from this data.
Pretty nice. I want to talk a little bit I've got a question about analytics in a second we'll cover. So before we do that though, let's move on to some things we noticed. A couple of things, one of them, which has got you a little hot under the collar. So Deluge, which is the scripting language of Zoho, they've got their Deluge editor, and they made a little UI change, which is kind of driving you a bit nuts.
Yeah, so this really only will apply for the listeners out there that may be writing scripts internally at their company, right, or is kind of interested in doing this. But basically, generally when you write a script, right? So let's say we're going to write a script that's about a lead. So, when a lead is updated to the status of requested callback, maybe we want to have a script that will create some type of event in the future, right, to call back that lead, right? So the first thing that you're always going to do is define the ID of the record where you trigger that script. So for this example, you'd want to define the lead ID. And then what you can do in the script is using that lead ID, you can pull all the rest of the relevant data in the script, right? So I don't need to define the email, the phone number, the time that we want to call back, right? As long as that's all stored in the lead, we can just query the lead using the ID and pull that information, right? And this is pretty much the ubiquitous way that people use Deluge, right? So all of our developers internally, a lot of the other partners, that we're friends with, they all kind of use this same methodology. And even, when we'll pick up a client who has some scripts running, it's almost everyone does it this way. The alternative way would be to hard code all your different variables. So I would define the phone number and map it. I would define the email and map it. But then when I go to test the script, I would have to manually fill in all of those variables to get it to test. Right? So it's pretty much across the board, the vast majority of people are just defining the ID. And they've changed the UI to define those variables, where previously I would just put in lead ID, I would click this little dropdown, and the thing that would be at the top of the dropdown every time was the ID that I needed. So it was just 2 quick clicks. And they've changed it now, where rather than having this dropdown, you have a field where you have to put in pound. Once you put in pound in that field, it pulls out a little window where you click a dropdown for the modules and then a dropdown for the fields, and then you click done. But it's interesting because you would think, right, with that pound sign, which is what they use for a merge tag, right? And any type of email template, I can click pound and then start typing and it'll search all the different fields. You actually can't search with that pound. If you type pound and then start typing, nothing will happen. And you'll have to cancel out of defining the variables and then pull it back up. So it kind of tricks you thinking that you can search in this field, but you actually can't. You have to type pound and then click through a bunch of different windows. So it kind of went from clicking twice to define a variable to typing pound, clicking 5 or 6 times, and then clicking save. So it's minor, right? It's just really an extra 10, 15 seconds. But it's one of those changes that maybe I don't understand the rationale behind it, or maybe a lot of people are using this differently than how I've seen it be used.
Are you just pleading for Zoho to just take it all back and put it the way it was?
I think I am.
The funny thing about this is our Cliq channel, normally our Cliq channel is very quiet, kind of the team Cliq. Someone will post something in there, maybe one person will reply. When you posted this little one sentence in the Cliq channel, it lit up. Everybody was jumping in, just screaming about how horrible this was. So I don't know, maybe we can get a petition going on this time.
Yeah, it's one of those changes that every now and then one will roll out, and I can't see the rationale. Just given how I have experienced people using this, it doesn't seem like an improvement. And especially with the odd little quirk that you can't actually search. Like if you could search when you typed pound and it would actually work, then I would be totally okay with this. But because you can't search, you have to click so many times to get through it that it's just like a minor little headache, especially just because we live in Deluge so much because it's such a powerful tool. It's just something that I bump into every day, and it just reminds me that this change happened.
All right, Zoho takes notice. Gonna launch a petition here soon. All right, Zoho Desk is deprecating their Desk API. This has actually been going on for a very, very long time. We can't find an official announcement. I think they talked about it last year, but it's like happening. And the only way we're noticing that it's happening is we're kind of seeing pop-ups here and there as it relates to Zoho Flow. So I think you just wanted to kind of put this out there.
It's interesting because they sunsetted the previous API in August of last year, right? So if you're doing any direct API connections, and this is probably old news, right? You've probably migrated them all over. But we've seen a couple clients pop up with, warnings that their integrations through Zoho Flow are going to be deprecated. So it could be that they kept that API open for the Flow team a little bit longer so that they could, migrate all of their functionality over, and now it's going to deprecate in Flow. But we just wanted to put it out there for anyone who does have any Zoho Flow integrations running that may be querying into Desk or interacting with Desk at all. You've probably already got a little warning about it, but if not, you want to hop in and take a look. It'll flag the flow and then any of the actions in the flow that you'll need to make any adjustments to.
Is it a simple tweak like it was with the CRM? Are you just
It's pretty
changing?
simple. There's a couple actions that you'll need to recreate. It's kind of interesting. So if I fetch an account in Desk, I just need to open up that action and close it. But if I fetch a contact, I have to delete that action and recreate it. So it's worth kind of just taking a look. The updates you'll probably need to make will take you not too much time, but it's just worth putting out there if anyone's experiencing the issue.
And in this week's reads, this is interesting. This was something that just kind of happened to come into an RSS feed that I had. I've never actually gone to the site that I know of, but it's called Blogging Pro. And they've got a really in-depth article on buyer journeys versus buyer personas. And we oftentimes talk about these. And this is just one of the most in-depth kind of breakdowns of what the difference is, how they work, why you need them. It's got some nice little videos that are in here as well, kind of talking about them. It even goes down, it brings in a big round table about the buyer journey that HubSpot put on at one point in time. So HubSpot's always got to somehow make its way into any of this week's reads that we ever do. But we talk about it a lot. I don't want to belabor the point, but I just found it to be a really good read. And I really kind of highly recommend this for anybody who's looking at their marketing programs, looking at how they engage with their clients, looking at how they want to engage with their prospects. This is kind of a 101 kind of thing and very much worth the read. So take the time and take a look at that.
Yep. It's always worth kind of thinking through, right, what that process is and who you're selling to, and then making sure that any of your content kind of matches that goal. Right, rather than just putting things out there that might not apply to really how you can foresee people interacting with your brand and eventually making a purchase.
And then I want to do a little follow-up here. So a few weeks ago, HubSpot, I guess we talked about this earlier, this must be in their end user licensing agreement, but they went in and they looked across their universe of users and they looked at how many deals were being created and how many deals were being closed and what that looked like, and they thought that might be a really good indication of how bad things were with COVID-19. And they've been actually updating that almost every week. And this week, just a couple of days ago, they actually put out a new update on this, and things are going in slightly a better direction. It looked like there for a while, but things are starting to take a downturn again. So if you look at the total number of deals created, it's down. It's interesting to look at this curve. It went down significantly if you started, looking at the beginning of March, and by the time you got to the end of kind of the end of March, beginning of April, it was bad. But then it looked like in April it started coming back up, and now in May it's going back down again. So there are very, very few deals, considerably less deals are being created. It looks like it's off by 10 or 15%. At its peak, it was down by 30%. But the actual number of closed deals is down 30%. So, and at the peak, the number of closed deals was down by almost 40% at one point in time, 35%. But I don't know what kind, how big an indicator this is, but I think it's pretty good, Tyler.
Yeah, it's definitely, we'll need to see kind of the next round, right? Because it seems like it could just be kind of a little spot where it's kind of dropped back again, because from that point in early April, late March, it definitely kind of got back on the positive trend, right? Yeah. Where more deals are being created again, more deals are being won again. But, in the last little block of data, it shows kind of a reversal of that reversal, right? So now we're headed kind of back down. So it'll be interesting to see if this is kind of one flash in the pan of, we had a rough week, or, if it'll kind of kick off a new negative trend here in their data. But definitely really interesting that they're publishing all of this, especially with how big HubSpot is. They're got a lot of customers, right? And a lot of deals flowing through their system. So the data definitely means something with the sample size like that.
Yeah, and it's fascinating, but I just noticed if you actually click through on one of the images, it gives you this kind of their COVID-19 marketing and sales benchmark data dashboard that you can look at. So how pipelines are doing, sales emails are way up. The responses are way down. So people are trying to evidently send a lot more emails out to
Well,
communicate with people.
what's interesting though is that the emails are up about 50%, response rate's down about 25%. So it's definitely, you're sending that many more emails, you're going to expect a lower response rate, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little
You,
offset on that data.
Yeah, and then sales calls were just completely, way off. So it's, I guess this is kind of, I guess if you aggregate and you're anonymizing this data, I think it's fascinating
Hmm.
to look at this. I loved it. I don't know if Salesforce is doing something similar. I know Zoho is not, but it's some great data. So worth taking a look at. It's a great read. There you go. Alrighty, and then over at Zenatta.com, we have got a blog on basically Zoho People and how to some kind of nice tips and trips for using Zoho People, and I take a look at that. It's kind of a nice little read. And then we've got our webinar replays, Zoho Desk Overview and Best Practices. Tyler, we did that on Tuesday of this week. It was well attended. We had some really, really great questions. It was enjoyable.
Yeah, totally. People got really, really engaged with all the questions they were asking. Definitely had some more complicated ones too from people that have definitely been using Desk for a while. So that was awesome. We always love when people can kind of help us expand the webinar there in that Q&A section and cover a lot more material. It was a great time.
Yeah, and our next one will be June 23rd. Normally it's the last Tuesday of each month, but that Tuesday actually kind of runs a little bit. June 30th would be the last Tuesday, and that's going to kind of go potentially into 4th of July weekend. So we're going to move it ahead up to June 23rd, and that's going to be on Zoho Social. So we look forward to seeing you there as well, and we'll have a link in the show notes and in this week's newsletter on how to go ahead and register for that. And then over on the website, we've got, I believe this was your implementation of the week, CRM activity scoring dashboard in Zoho Analytics. We've got a video on how to do that. Kind of want to follow up on that, Tyler. As I was building out this week's show and kind of reading through everything, the death of Motivator is still a hotly contested issue over in the Zoho community. For those of you that aren't familiar, Motivator is this really nice kind of dashboard system that you could easily sling up to a big screen TV. It could show you individual sales reps, teams, you name it. It kind of, how many sales did you make? How many calls have you made? How many new leads did you get? You could really just very nicely display just a ton of data.
Yep. And the trick with Motivator always was you could assign different point values to things and kind of roll them up, right? So if you expected a sales rep to generate 100 points a week, right? Maybe you would assign a new lead as 1 point, a converted lead as 3 points, a closed one lead or closed one deal at 10 points, right? So you can kind of get this aggregate number of, regardless of what they're doing, are they hitting some type of benchmark?
Yeah.
So we tried to recreate some of that functionality over in analytics by assigning some point values.
Well, so there's the question. So interestingly enough, most people are saying that the game scope is going to get them there. It's not. It's Zoho. I have to tell you, you just need to stop it, because you have basically 80 people or 100 people that are saying this isn't going to work, and the response is always the same, which is, oh no, I don't think you understand, but yes, it's going to be perfectly fine. And you're not going to lose anything. It's all either in game scope or analytics, and it's just not. But they keep saying the same thing over and over and over again, which is no, just close your eyes. It's going to be fine. You don't understand. So
yeah, and hopefully they'll prove us wrong, and GameScope will get that functionality. But because I could see if they wanted to combine them, right?
Yes.
Like if you wanted to take the motivator, because that's kind of games, you can run contests and add points, right? If they want to combine that with GameScope, like I could see the rationale. But the problem is that if they deprecate motivator before that functionality is in GameScope, you've got a lot of people that use motivator. I mean, we've got more than one client who uses it and has it on a TV in all their offices all the time.
Well, and the problem I'm seeing is that the company line at this point in time does not appear to be that we're going to improve GameScope, so it's motivator. It's that, no, it's all there. It already exists, and it doesn't. So my question is, how close do you think we're going to be able to get at recreating some of these motivator experiences in analytics?
I mean, you could definitely recreate like the scoring of different activities. And in some ways it could even be improved in analytics, right? Because I have more control over the logic for assigning points. But the things that you're going to lose are the style of dashboards, right? So for example, there was a really slick type of dashboard you can make in Motivator that was built for a TV, right? So let's say that the focus for the week was closing deals in a certain industry, right? I could make a component that would assign points for each deal closed in that industry. And you could make a TV dashboard where it would like highlight, John is in first and he has this many points. And Susan's in second and she has, and it would cycle through and kind of give you these little rankings. It would show everyone's images, right? You could assign
Right.
prizes
Right.
these and it would automatically set a start and an end date and it would assign a prize, right? So that type of functionality is not going to be in analytics. We can capture the same data, but it's going to look different, right? And it's not going to have that like TV dynamic cycling through users' profile pictures and everything. That's not going to be able to be in analytics. So
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
it's a substitute, but it doesn't have that same look and feel where you'd want to like throw it up on a big screen, right? So that your sales reps can see it all the time.
Yeah. So we just have got to, I'm going to ask Zoho to stop with this. It's all the same. Don't worry about it. I mean, I think we just need to say, look, I'm sorry, we're deprecating it for reasons. I don't know what those reasons are, but it's gone. It's going away. And no, you're not going to have the same functionality, but there are things that might get you close. And I think for most people, the only thing that's going to even get them remotely close, though, is going to be some sort of analytics.
Yep.
And that's not going to be real time. That's the problem too. It's
yeah,
going to
true.
be a
That
3-hour delay.
Pointing that out. Yeah, the fastest delay you can get in analytics is 3 hours, and Motivator was live. Right. So you could see yourself move into first place as I close this deal, right? And that's satisfying, and that's what motivates people, right?
Yes.
Hence Motivator, right? You need that live data where they see their points going up throughout the day, rather than every 3 hours they get a refresh and see it. And again, it's not like the end of the world, but it just doesn't really compute in our brains, why it was phased out. It must just be like the computation or the server requirements for running those dashboards and using all the kind of graphical elements that they use and animating them. I would have to imagine that it's like a server load versus usage thing.
Maybe, I don't know. It's just, let's face it, we've got hundreds and hundreds of clients and half a dozen use it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that's all it is. It's just, it has such a low usage, but boy, oh boy, those people that do use it, they love it.
Yeah, they live in it.
They love it and they live in it. So anyway, hey, and then we've got our resources guides. We've got 2 new that we did. We've got, Ready to Sell on the Go, which talks about how to use the Zoho CRM mobile app. This was another one that Zoho put out as we kind of scour the internet to find really interesting PDFs that Zoho's released. And then they actually put one out on maintaining a clean CRM database, which is pretty slick, and a pretty detailed guide on how you should maintain a clean CRM database. I hadn't seen this before, but man, oh man, did I like it. It's some good stuff. So really recommend taking a look at this. All righty. What do we have next, Tyler? It's always, the application of the week. This is mind-boggling, but I do like it. But I'll tell you why. So the application of the week is a brand new marketplace application. It's an extension that just dropped in. It was published by Zoho, written by Zoho using the Sigma platform. It is for Zoho Desk, and it is ticket assignment for Zoho Desk. And why is it mind-boggling? Because it's great, but these should just be base functionality inside Zoho Desk. There's just no reason for this to be a marketplace extension that you have to install. This is just something that I think should just be there. So you can now assign new incoming tickets to agents who are available they're online, they're on the desk. You can assign tickets to a team, irrespective of whether the members are available. You can reassign tickets to offline agents, from offline agents to those who are online. Anyway, it's got a whole slew of assignment rules that I think should probably just be built in, Tyler.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the interesting thing is that, not everyone knows about everything that's in the marketplace, right? So a lot of people may just never see that this came out, and it's a shame because it's good. It's really good, and it should just be part of the tool. I don't want to like take anything away from the desk team.
Agreed.
They built a great functionality here, but it'll just be sad for any users who are kind of need this functionality and never find it, if they don't dig into the marketplace.
Yeah, it's odd. It's got no ratings, no reviews. The screenshots are broken. They don't load. I don't not sure what the heck's going on here with the screenshots. So we can't really dig in. The thumbnails are kind of unreadable. But it was released on the 26th and built on Sigma. Maybe they're just trying to show how great Sigma is and some of the things we can develop under that using Catalyst. I don't know, but I agree with you. Really cool. I'm glad to see it. We don't want to take from it, but probably should just be core. And I think you mentioned the marketplace. It's just a great point. So many people just don't know even to look there.
Mm-hmm.
And that, there are all these interesting things that are there. And I'm awfully baffled on all these extensions that are written by Zoho. I get it when it's a marketplace extension that Zoho writes for a third-party application.
Yeah.
Which they do all the time. And that's great because that's a definite use case. There's no reason for that to be baked into the main product. Just go ahead and install this if you need it, if you need to connect to something on the outside. But when it's something that's adding just core functionality to their own product, I don't know, a little crazy. All right. And then our tip and trick of the week. This is pretty cool. So Zoho Projects, this is how to import tasks, subtasks, and task dependencies from Excel files and CSV files and JSON files. And it's really just all about how you can take a spreadsheet and lay it out properly with the proper rows and proper columns so that you can actually have tasks, subtasks, and task dependencies. Really nice. I mean, it's nice. I mean, oftentimes, it is a lot easier to build something out in a spreadsheet. A major project, you can build it out in a spreadsheet. That's great. But from a management perspective, managing it and running that project out of a spreadsheet can be quite a pain. So, but if you were to build it out and then import it into projects, you could invite all the team members. And I think anyway, very nice. They even give you some very nice sample files that you can download that show you how to do it, but pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if you can use this and import into the template creator and create a project template from this. Doesn't look like you can quite yet, but that would be a very, very nice bit of functionality. And I say that kind of selfishly because it means that, we could use these spreadsheets to kind of guide people through how to build a project template in a way that projects can accept it. And it would be sweet if we could just take this and import it to create templated task lists and dependencies into one of the actual project templates.
Did I miss it or did I dream it? I thought that you could convert a project to a template. Didn't they add that?
Maybe you can. Maybe I missed that.
I don't know.
They do so much.
I thought there was an update you could convert a project to a template, which means you could
import this even better.
Project and then convert, right? If possible. I don't know. Maybe it was something I was wishing they did and I couldn't do it. I don't know.
You convinced yourself that it was there.
I just told myself that it was there. I slept better. It made life a lot easier. All right, and that is a wrap. If you've got questions or comments, you be sure to send them to us over at info@zenatta.com or just click on over to the website and click on drop us a line.
And on the website is where I find complete episodes as well as show notes with links to the stories we discussed today. You can also follow us on your favorite social media platform, subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app, as well as on YouTube. We'll see you next Monday.